Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, host of 5 Minutes With. I'm so excited to share my guest with everyone this week, Saleem Ghubril. He is truly one of my favorite Pittsburghers, and he's also the executive director of the Pittsburgh Promise, as well as the vice chair of the board of the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh, who I'm doing a little partnership with over the next week or so. You're going to see a few interviews with people associated with the council. Saleem, I'm so happy to have you here with me. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, are you kidding, Natalie? I am so thankful to be with you. I am fond of you and proud of your work and just honored to be a small part of it today.
Well, I appreciate you so much and the work that you do. And for people that may not know, can you share a little bit about your journey and how you ended up with the Pittsburgh Promise?
Sure. Well, the reason my name is Saleem Ghubril is because I was born in Beirut, Lebanon. I'm an Arab. I'm an immigrant. My family fled to the United States when I was 16 years old. And through a series of events, I ended up in Pittsburgh to start a youth program. And, between arriving in the US and landing in Pittsburgh, I got thrown out of one high school and got thrown out of one college for making a bunch of dumb choices. And caring adults took me under their wings and mentored me. And wonderful people, including the woman who became my wife, reshaped my journey. So when we came to Pittsburgh, we started a youth program working with kids in an urban neighborhood on the north side of the city. And when I was running that agency, which I did for 23 years, I was also part of the team that designed the Pittsburgh Promise, which is the baby of our former superintendent of Pittsburgh Public Schools, Mark Roosevelt. So the Promise is his baby, and then I am his nanny, because he gave birth to this thing and then skipped town. So I called him a deadbeat dad, and I sent him child support invoices on a regular basis, and he pays. So that's how kind of my journey led to where I am at the Pittsburgh Promise.
That's amazing. And I want to hear some of those stories when you were a rascal of a young person, but that's for another time.
Bad boy.
Over a cocktail once we're able to actually do that in person someday in the future. But until then, I want to hear now how you ended up sort of shifting gears and taking the great work that you do with Pittsburgh Promise, and also finding time to be the vice chair of the board at the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. And if you could explain a little bit what that means.
So the Pittsburgh Promise exists to address inequities in public education. Mm-hmm. That is really at the heart of what we do. Mm-hmm. As an immigrant who kind of struggled a bit and was embraced by folks in this country and who took me under their wings and shaped my destiny, I'm also keenly aware of the fact that there are many, both immigrants and natives to this land, who don't have the same benefit and don't have the same privilege that I ended up having as a little Lebanese boy here in these United States. So I'm driven by a commitment to justice. My faith, which shapes my orientation, is the lenses through which I see the world, causes me to want to work for a city that is good and just. And for me, by definition, a city that is good and just is a city where the most vulnerable populations fare well and cease to be vulnerable. And to use biblical language, those are the widow, the orphan, and the alien. Like it seems like in biblical language, often God says, look out for the widow and for the orphan and for the alien. Those who don't have the support systems. The widows back in the day had nothing when their husbands left, and similarly orphans and similarly aliens. So the Pittsburgh Promise exists to address educational inequities and work for educational justice. And the way we do that is we try to use the little bit of leverage that we have to improve the quality of public education in the city, to raise the aspiration that kids have for themselves and for their futures, to raise the expectations that adults have of inner city kids in Pittsburgh, to remove the barriers in terms of pursuit of higher education, any form of post-secondary education, remove the barriers, the financial barriers in particular, by providing scholarships, and then to come back full circle and help our kids end up landing jobs in the growing economy of our Western Pennsylvania region. So we've raised about $220 some million, spent about $150 million on scholarships so far, sent 10,000 kids to college on a scholarship. More than half are Black and brown, more than 75% come from low income families. So we exist to do these things. And for me, ultimately, beyond you get an education, you get a job, and you can provide for yourself, what I hope will also happen is the formation of a worldview that says, not only does Saleem's vision for the city is about ensuring that the widow, orphan, and alien fare well, but that all of us as a city, including our young people who are emerging leaders, make that commitment. That to be a city that is good and just is a city where the most vulnerable fare well. So Pittsburgh becomes the most livable city in America when Homewood is the most livable neighborhood in America, and when Duquesne is the most livable neighborhood in America, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that just gave me chills. I totally understand where you're at, and it makes complete sense to me that all of these forms of justice intersect, and that the work that you're doing with educational justice resonates so deeply in our communities, and it is so necessary for our communities to thrive. So when you started working with the World Affairs Council, bringing that perspective to them, how have your missions aligned?
They're like hand in glove. I don't want to overstate something or speak in hyperbole, but the mission of the World Affairs Council is critical because the World Affairs Council is working to widen the lens and kind of tear down the blinders that many of our kids and families and residents in the region have about themselves, about their neighbors, about people who are different than they, about different ethnicities, different nationalities, different races, different religions, different sexual orientations, different ages, different economics, different educational values. So the World Affairs Council is kind of slowly, lovingly, gracefully widening that worldview, that lens, and removing those blinders by providing accessible, affordable, relevant educational opportunities, forums, discussions, conversations around those topics. So for me, when I was asked to be on the board of the World Affairs Council, it was an easy yes. I'm pretty selective about which boards I sit on, not because some are beneath me, but because if it's not related to my life's call and my mission, I don't have time for it. And the World Affairs Council board is absolutely connected.
That makes total sense. And as we wrap up this 5 minutes with, although I always wish I have like 5 hours with you at a time, because I just love listening to you speak and the great things that you talk about and make me think about. I was just wondering, what do you think about as we move forward as this country, in this experience, in this moment? What are your hopes for those that are finding refuge here in Pittsburgh in the United States and those that have immigrated here? What are your hopes for them?
That they feel like they belong. It's one thing to have us, it's important to be friendly, absolutely. It's important to extend welcome, absolutely. It's critical that we provide the necessary safety nets and the services, yes. But as long as it always feels like they are in somebody else's home, they are on somebody else's turf and land, then we've not really fully done our job. We have done our job when folks like us and folks not like us feel like they belong here just as much, and they have a right to claim and a turf to call home right here, right now.
Thank you so much, Saleem, for spending 5 minutes with me. You are truly so inspiring to me, and I look up to you in the great work that you do for our city, and I hope you'll come back and talk to me again soon.
That is never a chore. I look forward to that, Natalie. Take good care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.